start for the circle. I would say a great size, about the size of a softball. You can also probably go a little bit bigger because your sheet of paper is way bigger than mine. But I'm going to go a little bit higher on the top of my page just because Latso's muzzle kind of goes a little bit lower. So I'm going to keep this nice and light as I'm sketching it in. All right, all these light, loose lines, kind of building this up here as I go through. Now I'm really focusing on the inside portion along these lines. So if I see like that white portion here is starting to look too ovally, I just shave off the portions that I don't want with more of these light sketchy lines. We can make as many as we need to because we're not going to see these by the end of our sketch, so something to keep in mind. Once you have this circle, we're going to cut this right down through the center of the circle with a line that's going up and down. And we're going to find the middle of our circle, but we're going to go a little bit higher. So you want this to be cutting out a bigger majority down here at the bottom. You can see it's bigger than up here at the top. This is the start of Latso, but obviously it doesn't look too much like him. So we're going to add in a couple of more details when it comes to Latso. I'm going to draw in this really, really stretched out rainbow right underneath the line that's going left to right. And this is going out to touch the sides of my circle. And then I'm going to draw in a U shape inside right underneath this line. You can see how we're kind of creating this like a tube, this like a very like perilous stripe down here with the bottom of the circle. We want to see that. My goodness, apparently someone's not liking their nose, I can tell. I don't know if y'all knew, but I can hear you. So again, it's okay. I feel the panic. Some of you probably have never drawn Latso before. That is all right. So here's the key that you need to learn, especially when it comes to rough sketching. Because you can't rely on the safety net of the eraser. You don't need the eraser. You only want to darken up the things that you like. So if you don't like it, don't darken it in. I promise you it's going to fade away by the end of our sketch. It doesn't seem like it right now because the only things we have on our page are these messy lines. But I promise you, the only ones we're going to see by the end are going to be the ones that you choose to darken in. Now I'm going back, I'm darkening in this U shape here. And what you've just sketched in are the top and the bridge of his nose and his nose. So this big U shape is his nose. So something I like to do while we're sketching this in, so I've darkened this in here. The nose is a bit of a darker tone of pink. So what I like to do is I like to go back and I like to shade this in so you can see very clearly that this is one solid shape. And that solid shape is his nose. Now the line between the bottom of the nose and where the circle is, that is that little line between, you know, like it's on a real animal, it's called a philtrum, but I don't expect you to know those things. Really, this is more so the line on any teddy bear or any cat toy. It's that little line there. So this connects to the top of his mouth, which the top of his mouth is really his mouth itself, his smile is going to really follow the curve of the circle. I'm just very lightly kind of making a darker line here, but I'm pretty much going to go back in and lock this in. Now our characters have what we call open mouth smiles, so that means that you can see that they're smiling from pretty far away. And this is going to be, once we have this U shape, we're going to drop another U shape underneath this. And I like to think of this as like a lemon slice, I'll say like a watermelon or any type of other fruit slice. And then just like the other lines, we're going to darken this in. Now we will see a little bit of his tongue on the inside of this U shape. So once I have this whole thing darkened up and locked in, I'll add in this little rainbow down here towards the bottom. And one thing I will do is I'm going to lock in this back of the mouth. Some of you are starting to feel the panic. I can feel it. Someone told me to slow down. I heard that too. Well, don't worry. If you've never been here before, so those of you who have been here before, what's coming up in a little bit? Huh? I mean, quiz time, but also a break, because I know some of you aren't used to this lifestyle. But it's okay. That's more so. It's important for us to go, one, this fast, because you paid a lot of money. We don't want to be here for an hour. Some of you need to go ride rides and eat churros and stuff. Number two is because also I don't want you to focus. Again, if you get too lost in the details, we're going to be here for an hour. So part of it is just, again, making decisions and going with it. But also in animation, this is how artists work in the industry. We always have to go pretty quickly because every second about 24 drawings. This is with traditional animation. Of course, Toy Story was a 2D or 3D animated film, so it kind of works a little bit differently, but it's still kind of the same applies, that we can't spend a lot of time with just a sketch, because again, this is supposed to be messy, it's not going to be perfect. Now I'm adding in his big muzzle here, so it's going to be these two big C shapes, kind of really softening out this so it doesn't look too boxy, so I'm adding in more of like a stretched out U down here towards the bottom. But just like these lines, we're going to go back in and lock these in. Now originally Latso was going to be in the first Toy Story film. He was going to be more of a prominent character, but at the time, Toy Story really was getting its start. They really didn't know how to create a lot of that fur texture with these toys, so that's why it was more of like plastic, like Buzz Lightyear is very plastic-like. Woody is kind of like a fabric to him, but it's a very not too detailed fabric when it comes to him. So if you actually go back and you look into Andy's room, Andy does have a Latso Huggin' Bear. Again, it looks very different than how you see Latso in Toy Story 3 because of how much technology has advanced. But because this film, they were in, Latso is kind of almost like the prison ward in this. They had to study a lot of different films to just kind of show like prison breakouts. Some of the films that they studied were like the Shawshank Redemption. Kind of looking, I know, but that's essentially what it is. It's like they're in this jail, they're trying to escape. So they want to get into that mood and that mindset as to how these characters would think. A lot of times, Pixar artists, we do a lot of research. We go to the places in which these films take place. And so artists went to not only a daycare, obviously, because most of this takes place in a daycare, but they also went to a dump where the big scene happens at the very, very end. So kind of showing a little bit more as like how that process works, what it would look like, and how can they bring more story into this. All right, we're about halfway done. You can see we got the muzzle for Lot, so we got his bottom half. Still doesn't look as round as how you see him in the film, so we're going to build up the sides of his face a little bit more. So I'm going to very lightly start to pull these little slopes here, that horizontal guideline. And then I'm going to add in these nice, big, stretched out C's, kind of pulling so they connect towards the bottom here. Almost looks like you got like these skinny little shark fin shapes, or you can also think of it as like pizza slices. Now we're going to keep all this nice and light just because we're going to add in a lot of that fur texture later on. But this line right here that's going left to right, that's actually known as the eye line. So we're going to place his eyes right on top of that line. They're pretty big. They're pretty, and they're circular, and they're circles. But I'm going to sketch both these eyes in nice and light at first, just to make sure I know exactly where they're going to go, and that they're about the same height and about the same width. So if I need to make adjustments to them, I can. But I'm going to go back in, I'm going to lock these in so we can see them a little bit more. And I'm going to give him a relaxed look, because Latso's never very energetic, he's very like a sly, like southern, he's got that southern charm about him. He's very relaxed. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna like kind of shave off a little top section of his eye here with a line that's going up and down. And just by having these at a slight angle going downward, again, it gives him that very much like, welcome to Sunnyside Daycare. We're gonna take care of you. He does look a little spooky just because he didn't have his pupils in his eyes. So this is where I'm going to draw these in. So I'm just adding these so that he's looking out towards you. You can always change this up though. Characters' eyes can move in frame to frame, so he's not always looking out forward in front of him. But one thing to keep in mind is that no matter what the eyes are, you always want to make them just nice and dark. So press a little bit harder than I normally would, just to make sure I get those nice focal points with the eyes. But here, listen, you're in a villain class. We're not going to draw him like he's charming. You kidding me? He literally traps these toys like a salesman. I can't do that, no. So instead of having this charm, I'm going to have his eyebrows tilting the opposite direction. So if you see how the eyelid goes down this way, we're going to have the eyebrow go down this way. And suddenly, just like that, he's like evil bear. Yeah, he is. He's evil. This is not a good guy. And they even tried to reason with him. They tried to bring him back from the brink of like evilness, and he said no. He just continued. So that's on him. That's not on anybody else. He reaped what he sowed. But Latso was supposed to be, in the original draft of Toy Story 3, he was supposed to be a Care Bear. But, as you can imagine, Toy Story didn't get the licensing. Surprisingly, Care Bear didn't want their bears to be associated with evil. Shocking. What a shocker. So, they had to make their own type of fictional bear that was very similar, but he has very much that vibe. You know, he smells like strawberries, pink. He's got like a lot of these details to him that don't make him look as threatening as he is. But as you can see, we're missing a lot of the texture for him, what makes him very soft, very cuddly. So now you can see these light spaces that we left here. We're gonna go back, we're gonna darken these up, we're gonna add in some texture. Now I like to think of the fur texture as like number 3s. So you don't want these to be super sharp and pointy. Although you can be, who knows? Maybe this is after he snapped, you know, he's been on the garbage truck for enough time. His hair's matted and stuff. Or you can keep him like, again, this like suspicious, very sneaky bear. It's really up to you. You can just draw in what you feel like when it comes to this texture. But if you want to keep it more like how you see him in the film, rounder is the best move here for him. Yeah, he's a bear. You're right. You're so correct. Of course, now you can see how we got this. I'm not adding too much. You can see I added like 3 over here on one side. I'll do the same thing over here on this side. But the final thing we need for our Latso are his, yes, we're missing his ears. So the ears, we're gonna do what we did this whole entire trip when it comes to this art class. We're gonna start very nice and light with kind of like a silhouette of where his ears are gonna go. And then we're gonna add in the texture just like how we did to the sides of his face. So I'm gonna have his ears peeking out over here on either side. You don't want them to be too big because then he'll start to look like Mickey Mouse. So unless you want that, you know. It's up to you. But I'm just kind of adding like these shallow, kind of like small rainbow shapes. Very nice and light at first. And then I also want to draw in the inside of his ears. Adding in another little rainbow here on the inside. But again, just like how we did for the sides of his face, I'm going to add in some of that texture up here at the top. Again, thinking of them as like these number 3s. But before you know it, that's it. That's all you're going to need for your very own Latso Huggin' Bear, which apparently, I think he's at the Halloween parties. I heard a rumor. Could be wrong. It'd be fun to meet him though. I'm sure he smells like strawberries. I know if you buy the Latso here in the park over at the Pixar Pier, he definitely smells like strawberries. Hopefully he's not as, when you take him home, he's not as evil. Don't, show him love. Don't abandon him like this Latso. Or else you're gonna start another villain origin story for some poor daycare and some other toys that get dropped off there as secondhand toys. So I'm just saying, don't be the catalyst to the villain. I like to shade in his eyebrows, just adds in a little bit more to the sketch, just adds in a little bit more to him. But once you're done, the final and last thing left to do is just don't forget to find a good spot somewhere next time. Don't forget to sign your name.